20 years ago, two sisters, Kainaz and Tina Messman, decided to turn their lifelong passion for food and baking into a full fledged business. They set up a small family run cafe tucked away in a corner of Mumbai's posh Colaba neighborhood. They sold all sorts of European style desserts, things that most people in India hadn't even heard about before. But one thing in particular really put them on the map: their brownies. By now, I'm sure you know which bakery I'm talking about. In the last 2 decades, Theobroma brownies have traveled from that tiny cafe the size of a 1 BHK in Mumbai to different corners of the country. Today, there are more than 200 Theobroma outlets in more than 30 cities across India. The bakery chain's evolution has been nothing short of remarkable. It has managed to build a profitable business, that too in a category known to have products with one of the shortest shelf lives. Today, Theobroma commands a valuation of well over 3,000 crore rupees. In fact, investors like Chrys Capital, Bain Capital, and Carlyle Group are queuing up to buy the 20-year-old brand. But being in the big leagues has meant changing up its strategy. Over the years, Theobroma has cut down the number of baked and semi baked items on its menu and instead filled its shelves with longer lasting products like cookies and cakes. A big part of this success is because of its massive centrally located commissaries. And these strategic shifts have paid off big time because now investors are valuing the company at 7 to 9 times its revenue. To put that into context, it is the same valuation that cafes and fast food chains like Blue Tokai, Chayos, and Wow Momos command. All of this is good news for its current promoters, founders Kainaz and Messman and the private equity investor ICICI Ventures, which invested $20 million dollars between 2017 and 2019. Both are likely to exit with handsome returns. But once that happens, where would that leave Theobroma? Most industry experts say that sailing through with the new owners is no picnic. Take the case of Nirula's, which was once Delhi's favorite fast food chain. Things went south very quickly after the exit of its founders back in 2012. It also does not help that there is a lot more competition in this space now. Theobroma may once have been very unique and novel, but now it is up against dozens of cafes and bakeries, all of which offer similar products. So, to stand out, it needs to be more than just a bakery. Welcome to Daybreak, a business podcast from the Ken. I'm your host Snigdha Sharma, and I don't chase the news cycle. Instead, every day of the week, my colleague Rahil Philippos and I will come to you with one business story that is worth understanding and worth your time. Today is Thursday, the 17th of October. Commissaries are a key part of the Theobroma puzzle. That is because the toughest nut for a baker to crack is ensuring that all of its offerings are fresh. And these large 10,000 to 15,000 square feet centralized kitchens help Theobroma deliver on that promise. These commissaries are generally located in the heart of the city, and it is here that products are prepared, packaged, and parceled. It all happens in one place, which also ensures a level of uniformity and quality across stores. These massive kitchens aren't just in big cities. Even smaller tier 2 cities like Bhopal have commissaries. But how did the brand get to this point? Well, Theobroma really blew up after ICICI Ventures came on board in 2017. But the man that gets a lot of the credit is Rishi Gaur. He joined ICICI Ventures as its chief executive back in February 2020. Despite the pandemic, Gaur sped up expansion and branched out to Hyderabad, Bangalore, and many other non metro cities as well. He did that using a combination of bakery cafe and kiosk models. And just like that, Theobroma's store count and revenues grew exponentially. Gaur was also the one who pushed the commissary model. But Theobroma's success backfired in one very specific way: competition. In the recent past, several specialized cafe chains, the likes of Lopera, Zed the Baker, have adopted the same commissary model and are going all out with it. Take Zed the Baker, for instance. It has a 12,000 square feet commissary in Cunningham Road in Bangalore that serves more than a dozen of its stores in the city. But the bottom line is, commissary or no commissary, running a pastry chain is not easy. It takes expertise and a lot of money. More on that in the next segment. At one point, Theobroma was aspirational. People would trek all the way to Colaba to buy a brownie. It was everybody's go to dessert. But as more and more brands enter the scene, people's preferences have also been shifting. That was clear when the Ken reporter Pranati visited an outlet of Zed the Baker in Indiranagar on a weekend. It was jam packed with customers placing a mix of dine in and takeaway orders. Down the same road, the turnout at Theobroma was dismal. It barely had any customers other than half a dozen food delivery executives. Now, that is not good news. Because while there is a 60-40 mix among customers between eating out and ordering food online, food chains make more profits with footfall. That is because the average order size is higher offline. Ambience, things like the look and smell of a bakery are very important. And unfortunately, Theobroma seems to be trailing behind its competitors in that department. A recurring complaint from a lot of customers that the Ken spoke with was that the prices shot up and the portion sizes have reduced. And they are not imagining it. The company deliberately cut down its portion sizes. Like its sandwiches went from the usual two slices to a single serve about 4 to 5 months ago. And the funny thing is, it is not cheaper than before. For example, if a regular sandwich cost 250 rupees earlier, it sells half of that now for half the price. Overall, there is no rate reduction. On the other hand, a bigger size sandwich, say at a Chayo's or Zed the Baker, costs more or less the same as Theobroma's regular sandwiches. Even the company's USP, its brownies and pastries, just aren't flying off the shelves like they used to before. So, what's next for Theobroma? I'll tell you in the next segment. The potential market for a bakery chain in India is huge. One expert said that it is as big as France and the UK combined, possibly even bigger. And the existing market will double within the next 4 years. Now, amid all this, Theobroma makes about 75 lakh to 1 crore rupees quarterly per store on an average. The business really picked up, particularly after the pandemic. This also had to do with the growing demand for packaged goods through quick commerce channels. But other chains are catching up as well. Zed the Baker, for example, makes almost the same revenue per outlet. These brands like Zed the Baker and Lopera are also looking to expand soon. So they are all in the process of opening more outlets. These premium cafes are also competing with the mass cafe segment. For context, a mass tea or coffee chain will need customers coming in every day or at least twice or thrice a day. EBITDA margins for a premium cafe chain could be in the 10 to 15% range. But for mass brands, it would be in the lower single digits. As for Theobroma, its EBITDA margins in FY 2023 stood at 7.6%, which is an improvement from the company's loss-making stage 5 years ago. But like I mentioned earlier, the exit of its promoters is being seen as a red flag by some people. A few industry experts are of the opinion that the external investors' focus on a company's growth often comes at the cost of quality. But other founders insist that this is exactly how good brands are built. It is not that black and white. There has to be a balance. To scale, you need to have external capital. But it is also important to have the right investor and partner who realizes that building a good brand without compromising on quality takes time. The bottom line is, the bakery business is not a piece of cake. Hang in there because this episode is not over yet. Coming up next, Daybreak Unwind.
Hello and welcome back to Daybreak Unwind. It's Thursday and you know what that means. Snigdha and I are here to help you, but more importantly, help each other figure out what to do this weekend. So whether it's chilling at home, reading a book or watching something or even going to check out a new place in town, we want to know what you are up to and what you have planned this weekend.
Yes, but last weekend was the beginning of the festive season in India. So we thought, why not do things a little differently, right? So, why not talk about folk music? Because we
Yeah.
do listen to a lot of folk music during this time of the year, right? And we wanted to find out what your favorite songs are. Unfortunately, a lot of you did not respond on WhatsApp for recommendations, but we did manage to get a few recommendations at least.
Yeah, we've really been feeling the festive spirit here, Sigda and I. And I'll be completely honest, my exposure to folk songs was pretty limited for the longest time. This isn't a genre that I kind of actively seek out, so I learned a lot.
It's probably the same for me, except for some of the Bollywood music that actually comes from
Exactly.
folk music.
Yeah.
That's the kind of stuff we know about. Or like, because I'm from Darjeeling, so I know a little bit about, and Bengal,
Mhm.
so I know a little bit about Nepali folk music, a little bit of Baul music, and Baul also because I'm a big fan of Bob Dylan, and he was very
amazing, yeah.
inspired by Baul. So
Yeah, it was only while working on this and while kind of checking out the recommendations that we got and like our conversations while we were preparing for this that I realized just how much mainstream music is actually inspired by folk songs and folk traditions. And actually, my recommendation for this week is kind of linked to that. Because there's this one song that I've grown up listening to. I've been listening to for a really long time. And it's
Which
one of
one?
those earworm type songs that you can't get out of your head once
Which
you listen
one?
to Genda Fool
Oh my
from
god,
Delhi
I love
6.
that song.
It's this Hindi movie that released, I think, in the 2000s, the
Yeah.
mid 2000s. Great
When
movie.
Rahel was a baby.
When I was a baby. Great movie, great music. Genda Fool in particular really stands out to me. I'm sure you've heard it, Snigdha.
Yeah.
If our listeners haven't, please do check it out. I recently found out that Genda Fool is inspired by the Dadariya folk music style that originates in Chhattisgarh. So it's this very conversational style of music, right? It's like banter, but in music form. And it's usually very humorous. And it describes kind of interpersonal relationships, familial relationships in a really funny
Yeah.
way. Hence, the lyrics of the song go
Yeah.
Sasural Genda
Yeah,
Fool.
and they're making fun of all the in-laws, right?
Yes, yeah,
Like Saas
Sasural
gali
is-
deve,
yeah.
devarji samjha deve. Yeah.
So it's very, very catchy.
Yeah.
And typically, the Dadariya style of music is, used to be sung traditionally on the paddy fields of Chhattisgarh. So that's my recommendation. Snigdha, I want to hear yours.
Right, I have many, but actually, talking about Genda Fool and Dadariya, it's also reminding me of some of the songs from Gangs of Wasipur. So
Great soundtrack.
yes, amazing. So basically, Sneha Khanwalkar, who made music for Gangs of Wasipur, she went around Bihar, Jharkhand, seeking out housewives to sing all the music. And one of the songs that is reminding me of Genda Fool is Tar Bijli Se Patle Hamare Piya. And it's actually sung by a very famous Bihari folk singer. Her name is Shraddha Sinha, and she sings a lot of. So if you go to Bihar during Chhat Puja or anywhere, most of the music
Will
is
be
all
that.
Shraddha Sinha singing. So it's very funny. Again, making fun of the in-laws. Like, why? Basically, she's saying that why is my husband so thin? Mother-in-law, what have you done?
And something you pointed out a little while ago, and I found really funny
Yeah.
because it's so true, is that a lot of folk music is quite NSFW, like tongue
That
in
is
cheek.
true. Yes.
Yeah.
Very true. Yeah. So my recommendation is actually this. It's not pure folk music. I'm sure a lot of our listeners will know about him. And he's this Nepali singer called Bipul Chetri. And I've met so many people who don't understand Nepali, but they know about Bipul Chetri. So he's done a great job of reviving folk music in the hills of Darjeeling, Kalimpong.
Wow.
And so I recommend the entire album. It's called Sketches of Darjeeling.
Oh,
So every time I miss home, I listen to that album.
that's
It's
lovely.
very
I
beautiful.
haven't heard of
Yeah.
Sketches of Darjeeling before. I will definitely be checking that one out.
Yes. And my other recommendation is this very famous Manganiyar musician who recently passed away, Mami Khan.
Mm,
Uh,
incredible music.
yes, yes. So this song called Chaudhary.
Such a beautiful song.
Yeah.
That song was on my playlist for a very, very long time. I used to listen to Chaudhary on repeat.
Really?
And right now, listeners, it's raining in Bangalore. I feel it's such lovely weather to listen to
These songs. That is so true. Yeah, actually, Rain also reminds me of this other. It's there in the Sketches of Darjeeling album called Asar.
Okay.
And he's singing about rain.
Oh,
Yeah.
lovely.
Very beautiful. All right. Should we get to the rest of the recommendations?
Yes.
Okay, so our first recommendation is from Anushka. Anushka is our former colleague and she is half Bengali and half Kannadiga, but she was brought up in Gujarat.
Wow.
And her recommendation kind of sums up her multicultural background.
Take it away, Anushka.
Hi, I'm Anushka, and I would like to recommend a Gujarati folk song that I really, really like. But I do have the sense that a lot of people might actually already know it and already love it, and perhaps think of Ranveer Singh when they hear it, because this is a folk song called Mor Bani Than Gat Kare. And most recently, it was used in Sanjay Leela Bansali's Ram Leela. And it was beautiful. I love it when it's used in that movie, and maybe you've heard it for that reason. But it's a very old song, and it has quite a bit of a story to it also. So this song is actually originally a poem, and the poem was written in the 1940s by this poet and folklorist, songwriter, composer called Jhaverchand Meghani, who's a prolific Gujarati writer, especially in the folklore literature work of Gujarati literature. I remember him specifically from my Gujarati textbooks because I learned Gujarati growing up in school, and we had so many of his poems and stories, and we used to have to memorize his author profile for exams. So I remember so clearly. So I was very happy to find out that this song was actually written by him. And he wrote it in the 1940s as a translation, in fact. So he went to Shantiniketan to meet with Rabindranath Tagore somewhere in the 1940s or 30s. And he read or heard a poem by Robi Thakur called Nobo Borsho, which just means New Year. And it was so beautiful that he chose to translate it into a Gujarati poem called Mor Bani Than Gat Kare. Loosely translates to to dances like a peacock, but the full sentence in the poem is Maru Man Mor Bani Than Gat Kare, which means my heart dances like a peacock. Eventually that became a song and made its way to like Garba, which again is a folk dance popular in Gujarat and outside now. And still it is sang in so many Garba celebrations in Gujarat and has now made its way to Bollywood. And yeah, it's a great song available everywhere for everyone to listen to.
Okay, next up we have Hari. Hari is from Kerala and he has also grown up all over. Hari, give us your recommendation.
Hello, this is Hari. The folk song that I wanted to recommend is called Kalakata. It's from this very popular movie called Ayyappanam Goshyam. And the song was sung by this very sweet tribal woman called Nanjiamma. If you haven't seen her, you should definitely Google her. She has the most beautiful smile and it will definitely brighten up your day as well. The song will also brighten up your day. It's a very short song. She wrote and sang it, and she actually won a national award for the song as well for playback singer. So yeah, there's some trivia for you as well.
Okay, so listeners, we're giving you another chance to redeem yourselves because last week you did not send us your recommendations. We told you that we wanted to make a playlist, a festival playlist of folk songs. So send us your recommendations on WhatsApp and we'll just make a playlist and share it with you.
Yes, and with that, we have next week's theme. Next week's theme is one that's very close to my heart, and I know it's close to your heart as well,
Yes.
Snigdha. We want you to share your favorite coming-of-age films and TV shows.
Yeah.
And TV shows.
And books.
And books.
Yeah.
For next week's
Yes.
Daybreak Unwind. So the theme is coming of age. You know the drill. We'll link the WhatsApp number down in the show notes.
And I'll also just quickly read it out to you. It is 89711 08379.
So text us your recommendations for next week. And
That's a wrap.
Bye.